We are just days away from the Twin Falls County Fair opening for another edition. What is this year? 102? I think it's
I,
100,
I think it's 101.
101.
Yeah.
Doug Christensen joining me in studio today, and he's chatting with us because we're talking about, well, for me, I mean, I'm too old for rides any longer, and they don't necessarily fit me anyway. But the most exciting part about going to the fair is seeing the model trains. And this year, no different. Over the years, this exhibit has grown and grown and grown. And I'm not wrong, probably, in saying that it is likely the most popular exhibit on the grounds.
It is. And this year we have two new venues that we've expanded. The first one is a O scale, which is Lionel, the original 3-track that you and I both got for Christmas when we were kids. And that was just kind of a hole in the wall. And now it's been expanded as a city and a park and an oil well. And it's very, very well done. Then outside is G scale, which is the largest of the scales. And we have about quadrupled the amount of trackage out there. And we have a stream running through it. And it's going to be very, very nice.
I saw the work on that when it was first being constructed outside, and there's an awning overhead, obviously, too, as well.
Yes,
But it's built for the elements. I mean, it can withstand a lot of rain and cold and the like.
it can. It originated with LGB in Germany, and the idea of outdoor railways kind of originated there, and so their products are all they can handle rain, snow, whatever, and so most of the people who produce items in that scale do it the same way.
It's not easy any longer to find certain model railroads. I know that when my daughter was a little girl, I bought her a small train, but in this day and age, uh, the cars were too big for her little hands. Unlike when I was a kid, when but everything's plastic as well, and it was somewhat of a, I call it maybe dumbing down model railroading.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and yet there's still obviously people out there who are manufacturing the real thing, right?
They are, yes, they are. Unfortunately, the hobby is not growing. It's people about our age, who enjoyed it the most, and young people are too involved in doing things with their fingers
Right.
on electronic things. Uh, so we don't have a lot of young people in the club, and we really need them. We'd love to have anyone who comes at the fair.
I know last year too as well. There was a mention that it would be a great hobby for women as well because you don't seem to have a lot of, even though many of them likely grew up with these in the house too.
We do have opportunities for women, and we have had several who were members. We still have one who is, but probably the nicest layout that we have is an HO layout, which was built by a woman, and it's a great hobby for a woman because it's creative. You use your hands, you use your vision, any artistic parts, creative parts. These are all satisfied by this hobby.
I always thought too from a dexterity that they were better at, especially with the smaller dioramas and the smaller buildings and building those where, my dad was a guy who could swing a hammer really well, but he was challenged when it came to something small like that.
Uh,
And that they likely have, they're better at it just simply because their brains are wired maybe in that sense to be better at it.
Perhaps, but there are several types of members that we have. There's the member who wants to come and bring his trains and run them and leave, and then we have members who are interested in creative things, so they're adding on to the existing layouts. And then there are those who, like me, who just really want to uh, uh, expand and create, and I've done that outside. Uh, you recall last year the size of our G scale outside. It's about double now, and the trackage is about quadruple. And I think it's going to be a hit, a bigger hit than it was last year. I don't know if you remember, but last year, just before the fair, we had some vandalism out there, and of course we rectified it. But as the people came by on the fair, I would say about a third of those who stopped, and many of them are ladies, by the way, about a third of those who stopped said, "Now, is this the one that was vandalized?" Yes, it was. And then they opened up their wallets and made a contribution, and it was well known throughout the community.
Well, you talk about people, the reactions when they see all of this. This is what I guess, this is my disconnect, that the kids especially love what they see. But you're right. They'll gravitate more toward a video game when they get home. And I just think maybe a lot of it is nobody has bought them a train or nobody got them involved with it when they were 4, 5 years old. And if you don't do that, they're not maybe going to, they'll still love what they see, but they're not going to develop that involvement with it unless you get them started young.
Oh, we have several new programs, one of which is geared towards young people, and we build a module. We lay the track for them, and then they can take it and do whatever they want. They can do a canyon or whatever, and that will be in the youth building next year for the fair. And we feel that young people, maybe at the age of 13, 14, 15, are really going to enjoy that because they'll be able to create what exactly they want to do. And they'll all hitch together because we
Mhm.
laid the track.
Well, when I was a kid, we also had slot car tracks. And I remember it was probably not too far away from today with the electronic games. You used your fingers and thumbs a lot.
Hmm.
There's still a lot of that going on even with model railroading too. It may not be quite the same as just tap tap with a thumb. You're using the forefinger too as well. But it seems to me it's not that far away, far removed from what they're doing already.
We have about 90% of our trackage is electrified. The unit that we have outdoors uses batteries and radio control. And also, we can, with this radio control, we can switch all of the switches, of which there are 9, and we can make the engine fast or slower or reverse, bells, horn, whatever it takes, and it's a really an interesting thing to watch.
Wanted to mention for those who are tuning in this morning, Doug Christensen is our guest, and he is joining us. And we're talking about the model railroading display at the Twin Falls County Fair. It is 66. If you've got a comment or question, perhaps you'd like to get involved as well, feel free to give us a telephone call at 208 736 0300. That's 208 736 0300. You're listening to Top Story with Bill Colley as well on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. The club itself, for people who don't know the name, it's got a long name,
Yeah, it's the Magic Valley Model Railroaders.
but you can be found on Facebook.
We're on Facebook.
And do you have a website?
Not yet. We really feel that for the person who's interested, it was more likely to reach them through Facebook.
Hmm. Which has become, I think, for a lot of people, it replaces a website. And
It
we've
has.
noticed the same thing. Our Facebook page is much busier
Yes.
than the
Yes.
website happens to be. It directs the traffic back there, but that's the starting point on a lot of this.
Websites are good for reference material and things that can be all the time, and people can search for something. But the social media is one where it's really interactive. You can make a comment, people will respond to your comment, and so on.
I also noticed too when you look at it, you still can have all of the pictures and the videos and all the elements you're going to have on a website too.
Absolutely. And in fact, you probably can have a few more videos than you would on a website generally.
For people who walk through this year and they wonder a little bit about the time and effort, you're not looking for people to get involved and spend 30, 40 hours a week on this. Even if someone could just spare an hour or two, they'd be welcome.
Absolutely. And they can do one of two things. They can either become a member with full benefits, or they can just let us know who they are and tell us that they want to bring their trains out and run them on our layout. They're very welcome to do that. We'll mentor them for a little while.
There may be fewer people involved in this, but I don't think that you'll ever see a day when there's not someone involved because There are always people out there who just enjoy the cultural history.
That's right.
But I think in the long run, what you're really going to need is some sort of endowment to keep it going.
Yes. It was interesting when Union Pacific 844 came through out in Gooding
Yeah,
and stayed overnight there. Did you happen to see it, Bill?
I did not get a
Oh,
chance.
it's
I
a
looked at the videos my coworkers took.
beautiful, beautiful. But the number of people who lined up to see that from from Shoshone down, it was amazing.
Well, when I was a kid growing up, I grew up in Western New York State, and there was something called the Arcade Attica Railway, which is still in existence, and it runs excursions.
Uh huh.
And it is still incredibly popular. I remember they would stage a great train robbery. There'd also be a fellow who walked through and played the guitar. And then last year, I hate to admit it, I was watching a Christmas movie on the Hallmark Channel. An
You're excused.
old girlfriend got me involved in doing that. And lo and behold, I'm watching the movie, and a train pulls in, and it's the arcade station. And I remember going there when I was a kid, but they were using it as if it was an actual working
Sure,
railroad
as a
for the
prop.
movie.
Yeah.
And but it's still there, and it's the real deal. And people who haven't had an opportunity to, and I've always one of my big dreams is going to Canada and taking that 3 week excursion
Oh, wouldn't that be
across
nice?
country. That was one of my dad's dreams. He passed away before he got the chance, but you can sit up in the observation car and just watch the world go by. But if you can't do the real thing, when you actually see the exhibits you have, you can almost imagine it because they're so realistic.
And we have a TV and we have several DVDs that are very realistic of actual things going on. You know, out here in the West, there are quite a few places that have a narrow gauge railroad, and they have preserved part of it, and they'll run expeditions just like you had back east. Most of them are in Colorado. There's some in California and Utah.
I had some friends from high school that went out to California, in fact, or Colorado last year, and actually did that excursion.
Yeah.
And they did it during a pretty wintry time of year as well. But they loved it, absolutely loved what they happened to see.
There's one in Utah that runs from I think it's from Provo up to the dam, and it draws people year round.
Well, I want to thank you for coming by today, and for people who actually are out at the fair, even in advance, they'll see you working, and then they'll can. Do you need anybody, by the way, and to sort of be there during the fair hours that you need filled?
Yes, we do. We have openings for people to run trains, and we will teach them and mentor them.
Well, I think that that's a good way for people to get started with all of this. In the meantime, we'll likely see you out there sometime in the next few days.
I'll be out front.
Official greeter. It's 20 minutes after 9 o'clock. It is 67. You're listening to Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX and NewsRadio1310.com.